Kubb is a lawn game where the object is to knock over wooden blocks, known as kubbs, by throwing wooden batons at them. Kubb can perhaps be described as a combination of bowling and horseshoes. Play takes place on a small rectangular pitch. Kubbs are placed at both ends of the pitch, and the king, a larger wooden block, is placed in the middle of the pitch. Some rules vary from country to country and from region to region, but the ultimate object of the game is to knock over the kubbs on the opposing side of the pitch, and then to knock over the king, before the opponent does. Games can last from 5 minutes to well over an hour. The game can be played on a variety of surfaces such as grass, sand, concrete, snow, or even ice. The game's Viking origins, combined with the fact that the game can involve a certain level of strategy, has led some players and Kubb fans to nickname the game Viking chess. History: it is often claimed that the game dates back to the Viking Age and has survived since then on Gotland, although there is only scarce evidence of this. The far paragraph Reningen Gutniska drott Gotland Games, formed in 1912, does not list Kubb as one of the traditional games from Gotland. On the Swedish island of Gotland, stories of Kubb being played date only from the early 20th century. However, there is an extant description of a game resembling Kubb in a passage from the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle describing the celebrations of the Vikings following their victory at the Battle of Asandun in 1016. The game in its modern conception became popular in the 1990s when commercial Kubb sets were first manufactured. The key feature of the game is shared by the game's kicker currency and bunnock, both of which come from Karelia or neighboring areas. The game has now gained international interest, and an annual World Championship has been held since 1995 on Gotland. Large Kubb tournaments now occur throughout Europe and the United States of America. Belgium alone held over 50 tournaments in 2012. On December 13, 2011, Eau Claire, Wisconsin declared itself to be the Kubb capital of North America. The city has hosted the U.S. National Kubb Championship since 2007, and is home to Kubb Nation magazine and many Kubb clubs and leagues. In addition, Kubb sets are in the local schools, with some schools having Kubb units in physical education classes. There are also Kubb clubs at some schools, including Eau Claire Memorial High School. Game pieces. There are typically 23 game pieces used in Kubb, 10 kubbs, rectangular wooden blocks 15 cm tall and 7 cm square on the end. 1 king, a larger wooden piece 30 cm tall and 9 cm square on the end, sometimes adorned with a crown design on the top. 6 batons, 30 cm long and 4.4 cm in diameter. 6 field marking pins, 4 to designate the corners of the pitch, and 2 to mark the center line. Setup: according to the U.S. Championship rules and World Championship rules, Kubb is played on a rectangular pitch 5 meters by 8 meters. Corner stakes are placed so that a rectangle is formed. The center stakes are placed in the middle of the sidelines, which divides the pitch into 2 halves. No other markers are required to demarcate the field's boundaries, although markings that do not interfere with gameplay are allowed. The king is placed upright in the center of the pitch, and the kubbs are placed on the baselines, 5 kubbs on each side equidistant from each other. Kubbs starting the game on the baseline are referred to as base kubbs. The baseline should run through the center of the kubbs. For young children, the 8-meter pitch length can be shortened. Rule sets: 2 official tournament rule sets available for Kubb are the World Championship rules and the U.S. National Championship rules. Below are the minor differences between the two. Play overview: Kubb is played between 2 teams, which may consist of only 1 person per team. There are 2 phases for each team's turn. Team A throws the 6 batons from their baseline, at their opponent's lined-up kubbs. Throws must be underhanded, and the batons must spin end over end. Throwing batons overhand, sideways or spinning them side to side is not allowed. Kubbs that are successfully knocked down by Team A are then thrown by Team B onto Team A's half of the pitch, and stood on end. These newly thrown kubbs are called field kubbs. Deciding where in the opponent's half to throw the field kubbs is a very important part of the strategy. However, the key objective is to keep them close to each other. the player that tosses the Kubbs is called the incaster. If a Kubb is thrown out of play, that is, outside the boundary markers or not beyond the middle line, then one more attempt is given. If this also goes out, the Kubb becomes a punishment Kubb, and can be placed anywhere in the target half by the opposing team as long as it is at least one baton length from a corner marker or the king. If a thrown Kubb knocks over an existing baseline or field Kubb, then the field Kubbs are raised at the location where they rest, and baseline Kubbs are raised at their original location. Play then changes hands, and Team B throws the batons at Team A's Kubbs, but must first knock down any standing field Kubbs. If a baseline Kubb is knocked down before all remaining field Kubbs, the baseline Kubb is returned to its upright position. Again, all Kubbs that are knocked down are thrown back over onto the opposite half of the field and then stood. If either team does not knock down all field Kubbs before their turn is over, the Kubb closest to the center line now represents the opposite team's baseline, and throwers may step up to that line to throw at their opponent's Kubbs. This rule applies only to throwing the batons at the opposite team's field and baseline Kubbs. Falling Kubbs are thrown from the original baseline, as are attempts to knock over the king. Play continues in this fashion until a team is able to knock down all Kubbs on one side, from both the field and the baseline. If that team still has batons left to throw, they now attempt to knock over the king. If a thrower successfully topples the king, his team has won the game. If at any time during the game the king is knocked down by a baton or Kubb, the throwing team immediately loses the game. In tournaments, winners are typically determined by playing best out of 3. For informal play between players of widely differing abilities, such as an adult and a child, it is permissible to shorten the length of the pitch. Another option is for both players to play on the same team and keep switching sides during play. Tournaments. The Kubb World Championship is held annually on the island of Gotland, Sweden. The US Championship is held annually in Eau Claire, WA. The Australian Championships are held annually in Breamlea, Victoria. Tournaments in the US have exploded since 2007, especially in the Midwest. In 2014, the US tournament list includes over 20 tournaments, with the majority of them being held in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and Illinois. In 2013, the US Midwest Championship was reintroduced. The annual tournament will travel throughout the Midwest. In 2013, it was located in Rockford, Illinois, and it will be held in Decorah, Iowa in 2014 and Madison, Wisconsin in 2015. There are numerous tournaments throughout Europe. Most countries have their own national championship tournament. References. External links: Kubb Wiki Portal, Official US National Championship Rules at User Kubb. Viking Escarch, Canadian Kubb Information. UK Kubb Information.